When you think of a hero, who do you think of? Do you think of a caped crusader in the comics? Or do you think of an everyday social servant? Or do you just think of a really good guy? Well, to celebrate National Heroes Day, PsyPoints thought it would be a great idea to explore what makes us love heroes so much from a psychological standpoint. Welcome to PsyPop. In this series, we'll be tackling how pop culture or something in pop culture has displayed a phenomenon where we can learn from it in the context of psychology and or mental health. If you like this series and don't want to miss out on future episodes, don't forget to show us support by liking and subscribing to the channel. Don't forget to click on the bell icon to get a new notification whenever we post a new video. The history of superheroes is directly intertwined with the history of comic books. Without the first comic book, superheroes would not have come in the form that they did and left as big of a cultural impact on us. The modern comic strip originated sometime in the late 19th century in America, appearing in newspapers that were mainly comical in nature, hence the term comic. It was not until the year 1938 that the first and most influential figure in defining the archetype of the superhero made his first appearance in Action Comics #1, Superman made his debut. I don't know why I did that. At the time, Superman wasn't labeled or marketed as a superhero, even though he perfectly personified the term as it's commonly defined as today, which is a heroic character with an altruistic mission, possesses superpowers, wears a defining costume, and functions in the real world in his or her alter ego. The stories of superheroes were largely popular among the demoralized masses of the Great Depression at the time, and it was a trend which continued when many heroes joined the ranks of the war during World War II in their stories, all the way to their spot in the modern day. They were sensational stories that caught the imaginative interest of the readers, as well as symbols of hope and role models for what is considered right and just. Nowadays, many of these superheroes have evolved. Many of them have been made more flawed in their personalities, and while still adhering to their larger-than-life ideals, they were made to seem more human and relatable. Many of them have also evolved into million-dollar franchises with worldwide fame. Many other countries outside of America have even made superheroes of their own. Shout out to my boy, Pinoy Boy. Look that up, whoever's editing this video, it's hilarious. What makes a hero in the real world today? Well, Philip Zimbardo, best known for his Stanford Prison Experiment, also studied the concept of heroes and answered this question himself. He defines heroism as taking a personal risk for the common good while others remain passive. In his studies, he introduced the concept of heroic imagination, which is the action of imagining oneself as an aspiring hero in waiting. This perception, identifying the potential hero in you and recognizing one's duty to help and protect others, may be the first determining factor on how heroic you become. The opposite of heroic imagination would be hostile imagination, where instead of heroic thoughts, your intentions are more hostile and destructive. That's actually cool. A key insight from his research on heroism so far is that the very same situations that inflame the hostile imagination in some people, making them villains in that retrospect, can also instill the heroic imagination in other people, prompting them to perform heroic deeds. This means that when two people are put in the same situation, they have the opportunity to choose between becoming hostile or heroic. Zimbardo believes that being a hero is not just a product of heroic imagination, but also one's settings and opportunities. Today's heroes become who they are because of their experiences and mindset. To quote him once more, "Through my work on heroism, I've become even more convinced that acts of heroism don't just arrive from truly exceptional people, but from people placed in the right circumstance, given the necessary tools to transform compassion into heroic action." He has actually, fun fact, started up the Heroic Imagination Project, or HIP, a project dedicated to empower ordinary people of all ages and nations to engage in extraordinary acts of heroism. So good on the guy. Heroes are generally known, regardless of the media or real life, for a lot of honorable and ethically positive characteristics. But if we in PsyPoints had to choose the top 3 most notable traits of a hero, it would be someone who is selfless, continues to do good without expecting anything in return, brave, helps out other people regardless of the potential risks and consequences, and 3, shows great determination to persevere even with the odds against them. On the other end of the spectrum, evil is the counterpart of heroism. And with this context, evil is the exercise of power, wherein one uses their strengths to further their own personal agendas at the cost of others. And just to clarify, there is nothing wrong with doing things that would benefit oneself, but when it negatively affects others, does the action then turn into an evil act? No one is born evil. After all, they are made. And nowhere is this more apparent than the Lucifer effect, which is defined as a phenomenon where people can be influenced into committing violent and immoral actions if they were exposed to an unethical and evil character. No matter how good their moral characters are, they're still vulnerable to these changes, and this could be an entire video on its own if expounded upon, but since the focus is heroes, that's a video for another time. With all that said, why do we love superheroes in the first place? Well, there is a theory that we were born to love superheroes. In a series of experiments by Kyoto University, pre-verbal infants as young as 6 months were shown short animations in which one figure chased and bumped into a second. Meanwhile, a third figure watched from afar. In one version, the third figure steps in and prevents the collision, and in the other, it runs away without intervening. After watching the clips, the infants were presented with replicas of the intervening and non-intervening third parties, and they consistently preferred the one who stepped in to save the day. There's also another theory on superpower poses. Power posing, also known as superpower posing, has been... I can't talk about a video like that. Also known as superpower posing, has been used as a technique to increase confidence, especially during stressful events such as school presentations or video presentations. Wow. I'm so sorry, I'm going so off tangent. I will stay in place now. The concept of acquiring power through a pose not only helps individuals feel as if they have control over the situation, they tend to likely take more action than they are initially capable of. This mimicry of our idols helps us feel like the hero that the pose relates to for just a brief moment to help us get through some troubling times in our lives. The whole concept behind it is rooted in the psychological effects of posture in general, where open and expansive effects of posture can inspire confidence, whereas closed and contracted poses usually imply the opposite. And my favorite reason as to why is probably in terms of the representation of identity. The reason we love most stories is because we see ourselves in them. We relate with them, find truth in them, and can apply them to describe moments and feelings in real life when our own words have escaped us. Seeing people who look like us, act like us, or are relatable to ourselves in some form, go through struggles, not only help us feel validated that we can be special, defeat adversity, and be heroes ourselves, but also puts a spotlight on the struggles that the people who are like these heroes have gone through. For example, in the Women's March of 2017, as a way to empower women, certain geek icons were often found in the crowd, such as, to name a few, Wonder Woman, Princess Leia, Hermione Granger, and more. These fictional characters help give a voice to these women and inspire them to take action. That day to stand up for their rights. Their spirit and meaning sparked a flame that, for some, helped ignite action, inspiring people to invoke their heroes while acting as one themselves. Arguably, the biggest reason why is just that we aspire to be like them. Clinical psychologist Robin Rosenberg wrote that origin stories help us cope with adversity in our own lives, allowing us to find meaning in loss and trauma, discovering our strengths and using them for good purpose. It's not because we want to have super strength like Superman or money like Batman, which is the best superpower in real life. I want to afford a new camera and mic and the studio. That would be nice, but here I am in my study. I digress. But because of the struggles they go through and how they persevere through them, heroes have been compared to modern Greek deities in this regard, where, just like them, they have incomprehensibly powerful abilities, but were still imperfect and relatable. I mean, apparently that's the comparison that's been made, but I don't see how Zeus can be relatable to any sane or good human being, but that is just me. There's just something comforting about seeing characters with extraordinary powers still struggle with ordinary and everyday problems regardless of the fact. Which is why most people enjoy the more personal stories that comics bring out rather than the current multiversal ending world events in comics. Please, DC, after death metal, please, with Future State, stop with the multiversal endings. But again, that's just me. Sorry for that mini rant. I'm just really mad at all these multiversal endings. I just want to see something like more personal, you know? Most of all, having the knowledge that no matter how flawed these heroes may be, they'd still persevere and do the right thing in the end to help others. It's enough to comfort us and make us feel like trying our best to do the same, to be a hero. So, thank you all for watching. If you want us to talk about the certain topic next, you can comment down below. I hope you all have a great day. Thank you for